Hey y'all, it's Sherelle, and we are here for another episode of a New South is Rising podcast, because y'all know the South got something to say, right? And we're here, as always, to dispel the myths, the rumors, the misinformation, and disinformation about the rural South and the black folk that call it home. So thank you all so much for joining us for another episode of a New South is Rising podcast. Y'all know what to do. Hit that like and share button. If you want to be a part of the Porch fam, like it, share it, subscribe, and join us out here on the porch. I am so excited today to welcome a guest who is a friend of mine. I think we've been friends for about 15 years now. I've known him in this community of Albany, Georgia. This is kind of where he got his start in his career, and is now taken off and is out doing amazing things across the nation. And I'm so grateful to have him here, none other than Dr. Peter Stevenson, who's joining us today. Yes. And is the face of the uncommon face. We talked about this. We've done the conversation in the past, like many, many years ago, and we titled it The Uncommon Face of Domestic Violence. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I want to give just a disclaimer. This is a very sensitive subject, so trigger warning. If this is something that's triggering for you, we just want to prepare you for the conversation today. And so this is a conversation about just you and your journey. And I think when I met you, it was like you were kind of in this healing space. Like you had just kind of come out of some really serious stuff in your life. Yes. And I think when I met you on your stage of the journey, you were really trying to get to a place of healing, right? So correct. We met a long time ago working at Chehaw. And Chehaw first. Right. Wow. And then Albany State University together as well. And so before we get to like the really heavy stuff, two things I know to be true about you. You're a domestic violence awareness advocate. That's correct. And you are a fitness guru. So you built your whole career on health, on fitness, and recreation. So tell folks a little bit about, I know you have an organization now as well. So tell folks about your work and your career.
Well, I have an LLC called Total Package Fitness and Recreation, where we basically certify personal trainers, we teach personal trainers. We actually have built fitness centers and recreation centers, work with programs, different programs for colleges, universities, or even the community. YMCA, actually that's how I got to Albany, at the Albany YMCA. They brought me in to actually help with Phoebe Employee Wellness Center and their health and wellness program. At the YMCA.
And so that's a legacy you've left here, is health and wellness. I think those programs still exist today. And then you moved on to
Albany State, where I taught a lot of students for almost 7 years in the field of recreation, health and wellness and stuff. So,
and then since then you've gone on to other HBCUs as well.
I left here and actually went to Jackson State. I went down to Dillard University. I was at Dillard University for a while, and then Jackson State called me, so I went up to Jackson State and worked with them and helped with the Walter Payton Fitness and Wellness Center. I actually helped design that and was the first director to oversee that project. Dillard also, I was there to start and build an entire wellness and campus recreation program for them. And I left there and actually ended up in Virginia, where I worked. That's where my last employment was, in Virginia.
Amazing. And so now you found home and love in Florida.
I'm gonna be honest with you. New York is my home. Brooklyn's my home. Okay. But I live somewhere else now.
You planted. We'll say you're planted in Florida for now. Okay. Awesome. And have married.
Just a couple of years ago.
Okay. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that's so important to this story and this journey that you're on, because when I met you again, you were just coming. You were in the beginning stages of healing.
Yes.
And I want people to know and see the true story of overcoming that you've done as well. So I think when I think about you and what you've been through in your journey, and I've been able to kind of watch your journey from afar, it really does bring my heart so much joy to see where you are today. But it wasn't always this easy.
No, it wasn't.
No. So tell us a little bit, take us back, way back in the time, about how you got on this journey of domestic violence.
Well, I'd never knew anything about domestic violence. I didn't know about, men abusing women or women abusing men, or, or both of them crashing into each other and fighting a lot or disagreeing or whatever. Until I actually met someone who started out, everything was fine. Just know you're in the honeymoon phase. Everything is fine. You love each other. You say you love each other, and then all of a sudden, the person starts out being somewhat abusive to you, but you don't know that it's abusive. You think that something's wrong with them. They had a bad day or whatever. But it started out, in my journey, it started out with cursing at me. And,
well, this is, let me back up. So this was a significant other, a partner, married?
No, it was a girlfriend of mine.
Girlfriend,
yes,
okay.
Yes.
You all were living together?
Yes, we had moved in together. And
did you all have children, family, any of that together?
No, not at the time.
Okay.
We didn't have any children. And then we later talked about it and decided that we were going to have a child and stuff. I just didn't see the marriage as of yet, but I was hoping that it would.
Okay.
And like some people, you think that you could get in a relationship and it's a meaningful relationship, and that person will somewhat change, and then you could see yourself with that person.
Right. So you were hoping things would get better.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how long were you all dating when things were good before things took the turn?
I want to say a good year.
Okay.
Yeah, because we only stayed together a total of 3 years.
Okay.
About 3 years. And after that year, everything started changing. But what I'd like to tell your audience, that one thing that I didn't do was try to learn more or understand more about that person before I decided to go into a serious relationship with them.
So how long had you known her before you all went into a serious relationship?
Well, we dated for about a year,
okay.
And then we decided to move in together.
Gotcha.
And then during that time, of course, we weren't under the same roof, so it was easy to me go home, she go to her house or whatever. But then once we started moving in together, we moved in together, and we started, I thought we were moving forward to a meaningful relationship. That's when things started changing. But honestly, I didn't know it until years later when I realized how I was in this cycle of domestic violence.
Wow.
Like I said, my parents were married for 45 years until my dad took his last breath. So I didn't know anything about single parenthood. I didn't know anything about abusive relationships. I had never seen it, never participated or was involved with it. And then it started out with the cursing and the pushing, and then she was drinking.
Well, before we get to that, was there a moment, was there like that first moment for you when things became violent? Do you remember that moment?
Yes, I do. She actually threw a beer bottle at me.
Wow.
And it shocked me, and I was like, what's wrong with you? What's going on? And
now, was this out of the way, or were you all arguing?
No, I don't like to argue. So what I'll do is, when I see the conversation going in the wrong direction, I'll say, look, you calm down, I'll calm down, and we'll come back together and revisit this later when we're cool-headed. She said, well, no, you're not going anywhere. I was like, well, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to argue with you. So at one point, she took my keys from me, so I couldn't drive away. Okay, you keep the keys. I'll walk 100 miles before I come back and argue with you. So the next time, she said the same thing, and when I did get in my car, she took a beer bottle and threw it at my windshield. You know, and I was like, okay, something's definitely not right here.
Right.
I didn't understand what was going on. And I always, like I said, I left and calmed down and got a chance to get myself together, and then hopefully she would do the same.
Mm-hmm.
And then I noticed that when I came back, anytime I came back or she calmed down, everything was different, like nothing ever happened.
Wow.
I'm sorry, it won't happen again. That's what I always heard. So eventually it got more and more intense, and the arguments got more intense. The little things would make her upset and stuff like that. So I'm like, wow, something's not right here.
So when was the first time it got physical? Meaning, this partner of yours actually.
Well, anytime I tried to leave, she definitely would grab my arm or try to stop me from. She stopped me from moving out the house or walking out the house. She even got in front of my car, got on top of my car and stuff like that. And I would just sit there and wait till she get tired and leave. But the one time that really got me was I told her that I'm not going to argue with you, and she said, well, you're not going anywhere, like she always said that. And I walked outside, and we lived on the second floor of this condominium complex, and it was raining. And before I knew it, as I was walking down the steps, she kicked me in the back, and I fell down the steps. And I remember laying on my back looking up at her, and she said, get up and hit me, and I'll call the police. And at that time, I didn't think, well, you need to call the police. You have a cell phone. Why don't you call the police? But when I was with her the first part, well, actually the whole entire time that we were together, I was in law enforcement myself. So she knew that I didn't want my friends or my colleagues to see this happening at my house. And we're dealing with it at work and everything. So she, I think, pushed that to the limits to where I can do what I want to do because he's not going to tell anybody. Also, men don't tell anybody.
I was going to ask you, like, how do you feel in that moment as a man? Because, again, we think the face of domestic violence oftentimes is women.
Yes.
So as a man going through this, and how you, like you said, you're in law enforcement, all your friends, like
right.
not wanting them to know. What is that like for you as a man to process that?
Well, like you said, a lot of men don't call. They're not going to call the police. They're not going to say anything. We'll either walk away and wait till the person cool off. And I can say that's for true because a lot of men that I know have done that. They're like, yeah, I had this woman that was abusive, pushing me and saying, cursing at me and stuff. I would just walk away and then she calmed down. I think that by us being men, our pride was one of the reasons why we didn't call or say, I'm going to put you in jail or whatever. And I think that was my biggest thing, not to push the issue or not to call. I would just handle it myself. Did
you feel like the police wouldn't take your side or that you would get in trouble?
It just depends on who showed up because some of them were my friends. But yeah, I did believe that, that they wouldn't, because back then, this was like 20 something years ago,
right? Over
25 years ago. Back then women could lie and say he hit me and the man go to jail.
Right.
There's no scars, there's no nothing, but they try to get that person away. And I was telling someone this the other day, nowadays, somebody's going to jail if both of you don't go to jail.
Someone's leaving.
Someone's going to jail.
Right.
But it wasn't like that before. But since it's so prevalent now that women are being aggressive and more aggressive, then now I wouldn't say they changed the laws, but they're more.
There's a little bit more equality than there once was.
Exactly.
So then, when did it get to the point where you decided to leave?
I had went to work, and I was at we had started arguing, and we were going back and forth, and I told her, look, I'm tired, I can't do this anymore. I said, I don't think this relationship's going to work for us. You need to figure out what you're going to do, because I'm actually going back to college, because I took a break with my undergrad. I took a break, and again, she said the same thing. You're not going anywhere. And I was like, I'm not going to argue with you. And I bent down to tie my shoe, and when I stood up, she took a drinking class across the room and hit me with 67 stitches. Yeah. She cut me. She came over, and she started screaming because she saw it. It was just bleeding everywhere. My oldest daughter was actually like 3 years old at this time. And she grabbed me, and I said, go get some towels. So we had, because as soon as I took my hands down, blood was just gushing out. So she ran and got me some towels and brought them to me, and then I put it on my face, and I said, look, whatever you do, I said, you got to take me to the hospital because I can't go by myself. I can't see well enough to drive. So she said, okay. And I said, don't leave my wallet, because I was still an officer and my badge was in there. Mm-hmm. I said, once we get to the hospital, they're going to arrest you if I tell them you did this. So she rushed me to the hospital. They rushed me in the back. They stopped the bleeding, and then they called a specialist to come in and help fix me up.
Why did you give her that warning?
Because of our daughter.
Okay.
Yeah. After my daughter was born, I think the aggression and everything got worse, because she knew that I grew up with my family. I knew my father, my mom and dad was together for so long. I didn't know anything about single parenthood, and she know that the reason we had my daughter was because I was actually given away to this family that raised me.
Okay.
I had no flesh and blood, so we actually talked about some DNA that I wanted to leave my legacy, and we decided to have a child.
So your worst moment, she assaults you, you're in the hospital, you have a child. Does she get arrested?
Well,